In 1988, the USS Vincennes shot down Iran Air Flight 655 over the Persian Gulf, killing 290 civilians. Iran's response was to sink 0 American ships, launch 0 missiles, and spend the next 36 years building a military specifically designed to make sure that never happens again. They can't match American firepower, they know that, but they've spent 4 decades turning the Persian Gulf into the most dangerous body of water on Earth for any navy that isn't theirs. Moving on to attack aircraft. F-4 Phantom II. Before the 1979 revolution, the Shah bought Phantoms by the dozens, and the Iranian Air Force has been finding ways to keep them in the air ever since. These jets were the heavy hitters of the Iran-Iraq War, famously carrying out the H-3 airstrike, where 8 Phantoms flew nearly 1,000 kilometers to destroy Iraqi bombers deep in their own territory. One legendary story from the war tells of a bombing run so intense that the sonic boom was reportedly mistaken by ground troops for a tactical nuclear strike. While they are aging and maintenance heavy today, over 60 airframes remain active as long-range bomb trucks capable of delivering a payload that most modern fighters still cannot match. F-5 Tiger II. The F-5 was never meant to be a glamorous air superiority fighter. It was built to be a simple, affordable interceptor that smaller nations could operate without breaking the bank. Iran bought around 60 before the revolution and successfully maintained them through decades of isolation by reverse engineering parts and scavenging the global market. During the war with Iraq, these Tigers flew thousands of close air support missions, often operating from austere dirt strips that would have wrecked more sensitive jets. They are so central to the Iranian inventory that their entire domestic fighter program is essentially built on the bones of this rugged 1960s design. F-14 Tomcat. Iran is the only nation on Earth still flying the legendary Tomcat, a jet the United States retired decades ago. The Shah bought them specifically to counter high-speed Soviet reconnaissance flights, and during the war with Iraq, they became the ultimate top gun of the Middle East. The top-scoring Tomcat ace in history is an Iranian named Jalil Zandi, who is credited with 11 confirmed kills against Iraqi MiGs and Mirages. Because they could not get more American missiles, Iranian engineers performed Project Sejil, where they modified ground-based Hawk anti-aircraft missiles to be fired from the Tomcat's wings, a feat of MacGyver engineering that stunned Western analysts. MiG-29. After the revolution cut off the supply of American jets, Russia stepped in to provide the MiG-29 as Iran's new frontline interceptor. Roughly 30 are believed operational today, providing the fleet with a jet that has better agility and radar than their aging American airframes. While these are not the most modern variants, they represent a credible multi-role threat that can carry the Nasr-1 anti-ship missile. In any air engagement, these fulcrums are the few platforms Iran could reasonably push forward to challenge an intruder. The Su-24 is a dedicated strike platform designed for low-level penetration rather than dogfighting. Iran operates about 30 of these fencers, including a group of 24 that arrived under bizarre circumstances during the 1991 Gulf War. Fearing their destruction by the coalition, Saddam Hussein ordered his best pilots to fly their jets to Iran for safekeeping, assuming his mortal enemy would return them later. Instead, Iran kept the aircraft as war reparations for the 8-year conflict, repainting them and integrating them into their own strike squadrons, where they still serve today. J-7. The J-7 is a Chinese-built evolution of the classic MiG-21, and it serves as a fast, simple, point defense interceptor. It is a small aircraft with limited range and dated electronics, but its rugged design makes it ideal for scrambled launches to investigate intruders near the border. In a high-end conflict, it would struggle against modern 5th-generation fighters, but it remains a valuable part of the layered defense strategy. When your goal is to put as many radar returns in the sky as possible, even a 1960s-era interceptor has value if it can launch and land reliably. Iranian Indigenous fighter family. When the revolution cut Iran off from American jets, they learned a simple lesson. If you cannot build it yourself, you might not have it tomorrow. That is why the Hessa, Seke, Kosar, and Azrakh exist. They're not stealthy, and they're not reshaping the regional balance, but they prove that Iran can keep designing and flying combat aircraft without asking anyone's permission. Whether it is the Seke's distinctive twin tail fins for better stability or the Kosar's modern digital cockpit, these 15 airframes represent a statement of national defiance that matters almost as much as their raw performance. Next up is support aircraft C-130 Hercules. During the 1980s, Iranian crews turned this tactical transport into a desperate, improvised gunship by rolling heavy bombs out of the rear cargo ramp to hit Iraqi positions. These airframes are older than the pilots flying them, and they have survived decades of sanctions through a patchwork of reverse-engineered parts and salvaged components. They remain the backbone of the Iranian logistics chain, capable of landing on rugged, unprepared strips to move troops and ammunition exactly where the fighting is thickest. IL-76. This heavy lift fleet was essentially a gift from Iran's greatest enemy. In 1991, Iraqi pilots flew these jets across the border to escape coalition bombs, only for Tehran to confiscate them as war reparations. For a country under a total arms embargo, inheriting strategic airlift capable of moving armored vehicles and massive missile components in a single hop was an opportunistic upgrade they could not turn down. They are the heavy hitters of the transport wing, providing a long-distance reach that Iran could never have built on its own. Fokker F-27 Friendship. These twin-engine turboprops have outlived the governments that bought them, serving as the reliable regional buses of the Iranian Air Force since the 1960s. Because they are simple and proven, they are the perfect tool for shuttling personnel between bases without burning the precious flight hours of larger, more expensive jets. Pilatus PC-6 Porter. The Porter is a legendary short takeoff and landing machine that can land on a mountain ledge or a dirt track that would wreck any other aircraft. In a country defined by the rugged Zagros and Alborz ranges, this small aircraft quietly connects isolated border outposts and remote units to the rest of the command. HESAIRN 140. This program was intended to be the flagship of Iranian aviation, a domestic transport built with Ukrainian help, but it instead became a cautionary tale about the limits of manufacturing under sanctions. After a series of high-profile crashes grounded most of the fleet, Iranian engineers have recently attempted to salvage the design by turning it into the Seymour, adding a rear cargo ramp for military use. It remains a rare and troubled airframe, representing the brutal learning curve of trying to build a modern aircraft industry from scratch. Antonov, N-74TK-200, with its engines mounted high above the wings to keep them clear of dust and debris, this Ukrainian transport was built for the roughest fields in the world. Iran uses them for regional lift in extreme climates where other aircraft would suffer from engine damage or landing gear failure. They fill the gap between the heavy IL-76s and the light turboprops, providing a rugged, specialized capability that fits the Iranian geography perfectly. Boeing 747. Iran is one of the last nations on Earth to use the Queen of the Skies as a primary military asset, converting these classic airliners into massive aerial refueling tankers. When you cannot buy dedicated military tankers, you modify the world's most famous civilian jet to keep your Phantoms and Tomcats in the air. These giants act as long-range gas stations in the sky, extending the reach of the Iranian strike fleet far beyond what their aging engines could manage on internal fuel alone. Dassault Falcon 20. These sleek French business jets serve as the stealth transports of the Iranian leadership, moving senior officials and sensitive teams with a low profile. They do not draw the same attention as a massive Boeing or a military Hercules, allowing for rapid, discrete movement between regional hubs. In a system where flexibility is key, the Falcon provides a reliable way to move the brains of the operation without the logistical footprint of a larger aircraft. Lockheed P-3 Orion. These four-engine relics are the ultimate Cold War sub-hunters, kept alive through 40 years of isolation to watch the world's most important shipping lanes. Using a distinctive magnetic boom on the tail to sniff out metal under the water, the P-3 gives Iran a set of eyes that can loiter over the Persian Gulf for 12 hours at a time. Only 3 remain operational, but they are a constant reminder that Iran's eyes on the water reach much farther than their own coastline. Boeing 707. Iran operates some of the oldest military-configured 707s in existence, serving as the critical tankers that keep their F-14 Tomcat fleet relevant. These aircraft are essentially flying museums, maintained through a sophisticated black market of spare parts and indigenous engineering. Without these tankers to multiply their range and time on station, the Iranian Air Force would be a purely defensive, short-range shield, rather than a force that can project presence across the region. That brings us to helicopters. AH-1J International Cobra. Iran's Cobras are a time capsule from the 1970s that became legendary during the war with Iraq as the ultimate tank hunters. During that conflict, Iranian pilots achieved a staggering 10-to-1 kill ratio against Iraqi armor, and even engaged in the world's first true helicopter versus helicopter dogfights against Iraqi Hinds. These airframes have survived decades through a desperate make-it-work culture where technicians manufacture their own parts and black market components to keep these twin-engine snakes ready for the high-intensity fights that happen near borders and maritime choke points. CH-47 Chinook. If you want to understand Iranian geography in a single aircraft, it is the Chinook. In a country defined by high mountains, extreme heat, and isolated outposts, you either move by heavy lift air or you do not move at all. Iran has kept these massive tandem rotor birds relevant through deep-level local maintenance, because when you need to sling a heavy howitzer or reposition an entire platoon across a mountain range, nothing else in the inventory has the raw power to match them. Iran bought the Bell 214 back when Western contracts were still on the table, and it remains a vital asset because it was built specifically for the hot and high conditions of the Iranian plateau. Known locally as the Isfahan, it is the workhorse that does everything from search and rescue to moving senior leadership, because its massive single engine provides the lift needed to carry real loads without struggling in thin mountain air. The twin Huey family is the definition of a reliable veteran. But the harsh reality of operating aging machines under pressure was shoved into the global spotlight in May 24. When President Raisi died in a helicopter crash in the fog-shrouded northern mountains, it highlighted the brutal cost of stretching 1960s-era machines into modern roles. They were never meant to perform forever. These helicopters are the backbone of utility flight, but they serve as a constant reminder that when you cannot easily modernize, you end up flying older airframes right to the edge of their structural limits. Mi-17. This is the helicopter you buy when you want a machine that can take a punch and fly from an unpaved desert strip without acting precious. Iran uses these Russian-built HIPs to keep logistics alive when roads are too dangerous to travel, moving special teams and supplies to the front lines with a rugged simplicity that Western aircraft rarely match. In a defensive war, the Mi-17 does not win air superiority, but it keeps the units fed and reinforced, which is how you make a resistance last longer than an attacker ever planned. Augusta Bell 206. This humble light airframe quietly spawned the entire build-it-yourself helicopter culture in Iran. These small utility birds are the primary tools for training, observation, and light liaison work, the kind of low-level flying that happens every day without ever making a headline. Because the design is so simple and widespread, it became the foundation that Iranian engineers used to learn how to copy, modify, and eventually weaponize their own domestic designs. The Tufan is what happens when you are staring at a fleet of aging Cobras. You are cut off from the original supply chain, and you refuse to let your attack capability die. It is not a clean sheet design, but rather a deep-level Persian remix that squeezes more life out of the original airframe with upgraded sensors and indigenous anti-tank missiles. The point is not to build a world-class Apache competitor. It is about continuity, ensuring that Iranian pilots and crews stay current, and that a specialized gunship remains available for quick reaction hits when fixed-wing support is not an option. HESA Shahed 278. This aircraft represents the moment Iran took the light civilian helicopter concept and turned it into a domestic production reality. It is a composite body evolution of the Bell 206 that can be configured for reconnaissance or light attack roles. It matters because it represents a complete domestic pipeline, a proof of life for an aerospace industry that can now design, build, and support its own training and scout aircraft without asking for foreign permission. Mi-28NE. This is the sharpest edge Iran has added to its helicopter wing in decades, representing a massive jump in capability over their legacy American airframes. Verified imagery from early 2026 confirms that the first of these Russian night hunters have arrived, bringing modern mass-mounted radars and heavy 30mm cannons to the Iranian motor pool. By spending the political capital to acquire these modern attack platforms, Iran is signaling that it is finally moving past the era of just keeping old gear alive, and is now focused on raising the price of entry for anyone attempting low-altitude operations in their airspace. HESA Shahed 285. This is the Iranian fine, we will do it ourselves attitude. In its most extreme form, a tiny, single-seat light attack helicopter built off the bones of a scout bird. It is not there to duel modern fighters or shrug off heavy anti-aircraft fire. It is there to be a persistent, low-cost nuisance at the edges of the battlefield. In an asymmetric war, These small, armed helicopters force an invader to constantly look over their shoulder, providing a level of eyes in the sky that Iran can sustain even under the heaviest sanctions. Moving on to unmanned aerial vehicles. Iranian loitering munition family, the Shahedeh 136, Arash, and Raadeh 85, are the primary tools for Iran's saturation strategy. These are expendable, one-way attack drones designed to be launched in massive waves, forcing an enemy to choose between getting hit or burning through their entire supply of expensive interceptor missiles. They are loud, slow, and effectively turn the sky into a numbers game, where the cheapest side often has the advantage. Mohajer 1 through 5. This long-running series of reconnaissance scouts has been the eyes of the Iranian military since the 1980s. They have evolved from the crude, rail-launched scouts of the war with Iraq into a specialized family of intelligence platforms that cover everything from short-range border patrol to theater-level surveillance. They represent the baseline for Iranian drone operations, reliable, simple machines that do the essential job of finding the enemy so the artillery can finish them. Yasir. This tactical scout is a direct result of spoils of war, built after the Iranian military captured a US Scan Eagle in 2012. It is a small, catapult-launched drone with a distinctive twin-boom tail, designed to provide long-endurance surveillance without needing a traditional runway. It is a constant reminder that for Iran, any Western hardware that falls into their hands is just a prototype for their next domestic production run. Mohajer 6. This multi-role platform is a legitimate hunter-killer, capable of carrying precision-guided munitions while providing real-time laser targeting for other units. It is designed to operate from short, rough strips, giving it a level of tactical flexibility that larger drones often lack. Whether it is patrolling the coast or conducting strikes against insurgent groups, this is the machine Iran turns to when they need an armed eye in the sky. Segeh and Shahed 191. These flying wing designs were born from the data gathered after a SRQ-170 stealth drone was brought down in Iranian territory. They come in several variations, with some carrying weapons in internal bays to keep their radar profile as low as possible. These aircraft are a statement of technical pride, proving that Iran has mastered the complex flight physics required for a stealthy, tailless wing. Shahed 129. This is Iran's primary medium-altitude striker, a drone that has seen thousands of hours of combat in Syria and beyond. It can stay airborne for an entire day, acting as a persistent eye in the sky that can drop its own ordnance or guide in heavy missile strikes. It is the most recognizable combat drone in the inventory, providing a level of persistent presence that changed the way the IRGC conducts regional warfare. Hamaseh. The Hamaseh is a twin-boom tactical drone that serves as a versatile platform for both surveillance and light strike missions. It was built with a bulbous nose to accommodate various sensor packages, allowing it to be tailored for the specific needs of a mission. While it lacks the fame of the Shahed family, it provides a reliable, middleweight option for commanders who need more capability than a scout, but don't want to risk a larger strategic asset. H-110 Sarir. This is an unusual twin-engine design featuring a push-pull propeller configuration with one engine in the front and another in the rear. The Sarir was built with a focus on air-to-air capability, often seen carrying light heat-seeking missiles to hunt other drones or low-flying helicopters. Its dual-engine setup provides the extra lift and reliability needed to serve as a robotic interceptor for Iranian airspace. Shahed 149 Gaza. Named as a political statement, the Gaza is a heavy striker modeled on the American Reaper. It represents a massive jump in scale, carrying a significant payload and staying aloft for 35 hours at a time. This is a strategic asset, giving Iran a long-reach platform capable of conducting high-altitude missions that were previously only possible for the world's most advanced air forces. Fotros. This is one of the largest drones in the Iranian park, designed for long-range strategic surveillance. It was unveiled as a platform capable of reaching deep across the region and loitering for more than 24 hours. Mohajer 10. Unveiled in 2023, the Mohajer 10 is the newest evolution in its family, leaning into a larger, more lethal, heavy striker design. It has significantly increased its payload capacity for smart bombs and extended its range, making it a credible threat to targets across the Middle East. It represents the modern standard for Iranian aviation moving toward heavier, faster, and more capable robotic platforms. Shahed 171 Simorgh. While the Sahe is a scaled-down version of the captured American RQ-170, the Seamorg is a full-scale, jet-powered copy. It is a large, flying wing intended for strategic reconnaissance in high-risk environments where a standard drone would be easily spotted. It is a flying trophy, serving as proof that the Iranian aerospace industry can replicate some of the most secretive stealth designs. The Karar is a high-speed, jet-powered drone that does double duty as a target for air defense and a robotic interceptor. In its latest armed variants, it has been used as a high-speed kamikaze interceptor designed to ram or shoot down intruding aircraft. It is a rugged machine launched by a rocket boost, making it an unpredictable and dangerous threat that does not need a runway to get into the fight. Kaman 22. This is a specialized strategic drone with a long, narrow wing design that allows it to loiter at high altitudes for a full day. It is built to carry a massive array of electronic warfare equipment, or precision bombs, giving the regular Iranian Air Force its own version of a long-range, persistent strike asset. Sofre Mahi. The Eagle Ray is an experimental stealth project designed with a flat, diamond-shaped body intended to scatter radar waves. While details are scarce and the project is still under development, it represents Iran's goal of fielding a true stealth drone. It is a research-heavy platform that highlights the long-term desire to build a machine that can operate in a modern radar environment without being seen. Ababil. This is the original asymmetric drone, a simple and rugged family of aircraft that has been exported to groups across the Middle East for decades. Its various models handle everything from target practice to anti-radar missions, proving that a basic drone can be incredibly effective if you field it in enough numbers. Iranian Light Reconnaissance UAV family. This group includes the Nazir, Rad, Hadhad, and Mirage, 532 small, low-profile scouts that provide tactical over-the-hill intelligence. These are the tools of the infantry, portable drones that can be launched by a squad to see exactly what is waiting around the next bend or on the other side of a ridge. While they don't make the headlines like the heavy strikers, these small drones are the ones providing the day-to-day data that keeps the ground forces' eyes on in the field. Moving on to naval vessels, Kilo class. Russian engineers designed these diesel-electric boats to be so quiet they nicknamed them the Black Hole. But the Iranian Navy has learned that a 3,000-ton sub is a massive liability in the bathtub-shallow waters of the Persian Gulf. While they carry anechoic rubber tiles to absorb sonar, they are often forced to stay in the deeper Gulf of Oman just to have enough room to dive without hitting the bottom. Maintenance has been a constant struggle, with crews famously having to manufacture their own lead-acid batteries from scratch when Moscow stopped answering the phone, but in deep water, they remain the only Iranian asset that can truly vanish. Fateh class. Iranian shipyards spent nearly a decade struggling to bridge the gap between their massive Russian boats and their tiny midget subs, finally producing this 500-ton coastal hunter. It is a completely indigenous design that allows Iran to keep a persistent subsurface presence right in the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz for weeks at a time. By 2026, these boats have become the primary testbed for Iranian air-independent propulsion, a technology that lets them stay submerged without a snorkel, turning them into a silent, semi-permanent picket line that an invader cannot easily spot from the air. Ghadir class. North Korean blueprints provided the DNA for these tiny midget submarines, which are small enough to sit motionless on the rocky seabed and wait like a smart mine for a target to pass overhead. Iran operates 20 of these boats because they understand that in the cluttered, noisy environment of the Gulf, traditional sonar often cannot tell the difference between a Ghadir and a pile of rocks. They only carry 2 torpedoes, but the plan is to use them in swarms, saturating a billion-dollar destroyer with fire from 4 different directions before vanishing back into the underwater terrain. Nahan class. Iranian engineers used this single, double-hulled boat as a proof of concept to see if they could actually build a functioning submarine under a total arms embargo. It lacks the advanced sensors found on the newer Ghadars, but it remains in service as a specialized platform for inserting special operations teams and laying mines in shallow harbors. It is the machine that taught the Iranian Navy how to build for the silent war, proving that sanctions could delay their progress but not stop it. Muj class. Building a domestic frigate program has been a story of high-tech pride followed by catastrophic maintenance failures. In 2020, the Iris Jamaran made global headlines for a tragic friendly fire incident where it accidentally struck its own support ship with a missile. And in July 2024, the Iris Sahand actually capsized and sank at its own pier during a repair job. While the Sahand was eventually refloated and restored by 2026, the newest ship in the family, the Iris Dalaman, is the one that matters. It carries a flat-faced phased array radar that can track hundreds of targets at once, signaling a major jump in Iranian sensor capability, Alvan class. Operation Praying Mantis in 1988 almost wiped this class of British-built frigates off the map. During that fight, the Iris Sahand was sunk by American harpoons, while the Iris Sabalan was crippled when a US Navy pilot dropped a laser-guided bomb directly down its exhaust stack. Despite the ship's captain having a reputation for machine gunning neutral sailors, the Iranian Navy refused to scrap the Sabalan. They spent years rebuilding it, and today it still patrols the Gulf as a defiant symbol of a fleet that refuses to stay on the bottom. Bayan D'Or class. Originally built in the United States during the 1960s for coastal patrol, these are some of the oldest active warships on the planet. Iran has kept the ancient American hulls in the fight for over 60 years by refitting them with modern Chinese missiles and domestic electronics. By early 2026, these veterans were still participating in high-profile exercises with the Russian and Chinese navies, proving that if a crew is stubborn enough, they can make a Vietnam-era patrol boat relevant in the age of drone warfare. Hamza class. Dutch shipbuilders originally delivered this vessel as a luxury government yacht for the Shah, but the revolutionary government stripped out the wood paneling and turned it into a warship for the Northern Fleet. It is a literal palace at sea that now carries anti-ship missiles and heavy deck guns across the Caspian Sea. It represents the ultimate Iranian pragmatism. If a boat floats and can carry a weapon, it goes to the front line, regardless of its original mission. Common class. French designers built these fast attack craft for the kind of high-speed hit-and-run missions that destroyed 80% of the Iraqi Navy in a single day during the 1980s. They are small, nimble, and carry a disproportionate amount of firepower, intended to dash out from a hidden cove, launch a salvo of missiles, and vanish before the enemy can coordinate a return strike. They are the muscle of the coastal defense, relying on speed and the cluttered coastline to survive against a much larger opponent. Sina class. Iranian shipyards have spent the last decade replacing their aging French boats with this domestically built evolution of the design. 5 of these boats are now in service, carrying modernized electronics and the Noor anti-ship missile. They are the sharp edge of the closed-door strategy for the Strait of Hormuz, providing a fast, reliable platform that Iran can manufacture in its own docks without needing a foreign signature on a contract. Iranian patrol boat fleet. These 6 Parvin and Kaivan-class vessels act as the beat cops of the Iranian coast, handling the day-to-day work of stopping, boarding, and monitoring every ship that enters their waters. They are not built for a fleet engagement, but they provide the essential eyes-on presence that allows the rest of the military to know exactly who is moving through the region. In a war of nerves, these are the ships that do the daily work of irritating and observing foreign navies at close range. Shaheen class. Naval mines are Iran's most effective weapon, which makes this single mine hunter a strategic necessity for their own logistics. The Shaheen is the janitor of the fleet, built to find and neutralize underwater threats in a region where a single drifting mine can spike world oil prices in an hour. It ensures that while the Iranian Navy can shut down the lanes for an invader, they can keep them open for their own supplies and oil exports. Iranian Support and Logistics Fleet. This collection of 40 vessels is the invisible infrastructure that allows the fleet to project power far beyond the Persian Gulf. The standout is the Iris Macron, a former oil tanker converted into a massive expeditionary sea base that displaces over 120,000 tons. It can carry fast attack boats, a fleet of drones, and 7 helicopters, acting as a floating fortress that can stay at sea for 3 years without docking. By 2026, the Macron has led deployments as far as the Atlantic and South Africa, proving that Iran no longer needs a traditional naval base to project power and threaten distant interests.